If you are considering moving to Southwest Florida, then you are in the right place. And if boating and fishing and an active water lifestyle are what you are seeking, then you're definitely in the right place today, as I'm going to be heading out to Pine Island and doing part 2 of my 2-part series. Video number 1 was south on Pine Island and doing a drive-by and overview of St. James City. Today we're going to be heading out, hanging a right onto Stringfellow, and heading up to Bokeelia. So I'm going to go jump in the car, get set up, and I'll see you again once we get rolling. Thanks again for stopping by. So hey everyone, I wanted to throw in a little bit of a disclaimer on this video. It was an absolute comedy of errors from minute 1 when I tried putting this video together. So with that being said, I do spend some time talking about Captain Conn's restaurant within my video while I was driving. And I came back and I did some research to confirm some details. And while I do believe the restaurant had some issues it had to deal with after Hurricane Ian in 22, Hurricane Milton was the devastating storm for that restaurant in 2024. And whatever the reasons were, financial or other, it was determined that Captain Conn's was not going to reopen. And then I honestly don't know how I missed this news along the way, but around 9 months ago, the restaurant was demolished. Now, I threw in a couple of photos showing what it used to look like and then what it looked like post-hurricane, but I just wanted to clarify with you that when I get out there in the driving part of the video, that area that had like the storage trailer, the yellow trailer, and some other debris, that is ultimately where the restaurant had been located. So I had intended to kind of give you an overview of the Jug Creek Marina, and just between weather, traffic, other issues, phone dying, microphone picking up background noise that it shouldn't, there was just so many things that went sideways while I was working on this video that there's some pieces that are gone that you won't necessarily notice that. So there's also going to be, in light of a microphone failure while I was driving at one point, I'm going to do a voiceover in the video to kind of fill the gap of what I was going to be talking about or what I had been talking about while I was driving. So if there's any little volume adjustments or anything that happen along the way, that's the reason for that. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned. We're going to jump into the car and get going with the video. Welcome to part 2 of my 2-part series in regard to Pine Island, Florida. So today we are heading to the northern end of Pine Island, and the town on this half of the island, as far as a mailing address or a recognizable name on a map, is known as Bokeelia. So we have a few miles here that we're just going to be driving out basically to the end of Bokeelia here. There are a few little things here and there along the way. So we've got a local restaurant here off to the right that we just passed. And at the very end here, there was a restaurant that had been here for literally decades and decades and decades. And that was known as Captain Conn's. And to my knowledge at this time, they had made the decision to close up shop permanently. If I am not mistaken, I believe they incurred damage from a couple of our recent hurricanes. So in 2022, we obviously here locally dealt with Hurricane Ian, and then we dealt with Hurricane Helene going by out in the Gulf, not making landfall in the area. And then shortly thereafter, Hurricane Milton. And that did make landfall not too far north of here. But all 3 of those storms, just based on the direction of the movement of the storm, where it was coming from, the position relative to this immediate area, we were on the wrong side of the wind flow when it comes to flooding and water being pushed into this area. I don't know if any of you happen to see any of the footage that was out there during Hurricane Ian. When you look at where that storm essentially made landfall and the proximity of other cities and towns relative to the landfall of the storm, it was really very interesting, given where Tampa is located and the fact that that top side of the storm, they were getting basically the counterclockwise flow of the wind, and all the water was literally pushed out of Tampa Bay. So there was a period of time while that hurricane was essentially making landfall and moving through the area. There are a number of videos out there on YouTube and elsewhere where there are people out walking across Tampa Bay because there was no water in the Bay of Tampa. It was rather remarkable to see. We were on the southern side exposure of that, so we had the um, obviously counterclockwise all the way around, but being on the bottom half, we had that onshore flow of wind, basically moving from, say, 7 o'clock on a clock toward 4 o'clock on a clock. And, we endured more than we should have with those three different storms. So sorry for the big digression there, but I believe that flooding damage and other damage, possibly from the wind and the storm itself, was ultimately what led Captain Conn's to close. I am not 100% accurate on that, but if I recall correctly from what I had read a while back, I believe that is how things played out there. So this side of Pine Island here, there is not much to look at as you're driving along here on Stringfellow. So right now we are essentially heading north. We came out of Cape Coral and Matlacha from the east and headed west to get out here to Pine Island, got to the main intersection uh, on Pine Island and made a right. So we are now heading north. There had been a very cool golf course out here, Alden Pines, which I have been told has closed. There is the Tarpon Lodge over here, and there is a marina and a restaurant over there at the Tarpon Lodge as well. I might duck in and drive through there real quick on the way back. If you watched part one of this series with me going down to St. James City and the southern end of the island, this is going to look somewhat similar in regard to those couple of miles along the way, uh, driving along to basically get out to the end of the island, if you will. There is residential housing scattered out in this general area. It doesn't look like it from this main road, but as you go down some of these side streets, there certainly is residential housing available. But again, it's a little hidden and secluded, and just like on the southern half of the island, you definitely have tree farms out here and nurseries. So if you need plants or landscaping accessories in terms of foliage or plants for your home here in, let's say, the Lee County area, this is definitely a place that you can come out to if you need to pick up some trees or pick up some plants. So this is a voiceover section where we had picked up some horrible background noise that I'm not sure what caused it, but in regard to this area being Bokeelia, Florida, Bokeelia stems from the Spanish word boquilla, meaning little mouth, which refers to the mouth of Jug Creek. Out here on Pine Island and in this Bokeelia area. Spanish fishing camps were active here as early as 1765, and they led to settlements in the Keys and Cuba as well. There's a local fire station out here on the island. We just passed that there on the left. Have a manufactured housing community that we just passed here on the left, have a church here on the right, and now that we are getting out a little bit closer toward the end of the island, we are getting into a little bit more in the way of residential opportunities out here. But this is a very cool community. This has been here for many, many, many years. And it is just a very cool little corner or pocket here in the Southwest Florida area within Lee County, as is the case in many areas around here. The fishing is excellent. So inshore slams, targeting all your big name species for inshore in this kind of climate, being redfish, tarpon, snook, trout, sharks, barracudas, and then all the smaller edibles like snapper and sheep's head and that sort of thing. It's just a great area if you're into kayaking, paddle boarding, and wade fishing, or kayak fishing, or small craft fishing. It's just a very cool little segment within our community. Got some housing options right over here on the right that we just drove by. Housing here on the left in Captain's Cove. Got the Lazy Flamingo Lazy Flamingo restaurant here, along with the marina. And one of the really cool things that highlight the indigenous history of this area and Pine Island is the fact that there are still native Calusa shell mounds out here in certain areas on the island. And if you're looking to get out for just a couple of hours and spend a little time out in nature, you've got attractions such as hiking and birding. If the golf course comes back and is open to the public again, there would be golfing. There are some museums out here on the island and some native Calusa heritage sites. It's just a really interesting and historic, very cool little area. All right, so we are now approaching the very northern end here of Pine Island, and as we wrap around the top end of the island here, there's going to be a transition in the video, and unfortunately, it was very sad to see the basically the remnants at this point of the vacant space where the demolition of Captain Conn's had taken place. As I say in the video upcoming, it's been a long time since I've been out here. So even though it was long ago, there are still memories and visual recollections of that experience. I figured I would touch on real quick here before we get there. As of July 25, average home values out here in the Bokeelia area running somewhere in the upper 300s to 400. Current median listing price is running in the neighborhood of 500,000, and the median sale price, according to Redfin from July 25, was just under 400,000. And according to Movoto, the median price in the upper 400s. So you can figure on, somewhere in the realm of, let's say, 375 to 600,000 for many of the homes that are out in this area. And there are obviously going to be ones that are more expensive than that, depending on size, features, amenities, and location. It has been many years since I have been out here. If I'm not mistaken, this right in front of us here is what is left of what had been a public fishing pier. And the water body that we are looking at right at the moment, this is here in Charlotte Harbor. So off to the left is west, and you basically have Boca Grande Pass off to our left. So we are not too far at this point from being out to the open Gulf. It's going to be a couple of nautical miles from here, but this is pretty open and not very protected. So when these storms came in, this immediate area did take its fair share of abuse with the flooding and the waves and the wind and everything else. If I am not mistaken, because it has been a while since I have been out here, but this is very sad to see, because I believe this right here is where Captain Conn's restaurant had been. I'm going to drive around here a little bit more just to make sure, because I don't believe that the building was destroyed. I believe the owner just decided to retire, or maybe had issues with their insurance claim and getting adequate dollars to rebuild. So I'm going to tool on down here a little bit further. Yeah, I don't believe it was this far down. Since I am out here, figured I would give you a glimpse of what some of the residential real estate looks like out here at the very northern end of Pine Island, and I absolutely picked the wrong road to turn down. That is all there is to this one. Let's see if I can get over into that other neighborhood for you to just give you a quick little view of what things look like out here. This island and this area in general is very storied when it comes to the history in regard to shrimping and fishing and boating and crabbing. It is really, truly what this area is known for, and there is a lot of history here for commercial harvesting of seafood, if you will. But if you live the boating lifestyle and want to be in a position of having very close access and proximity to being out into the open Gulf, this is certainly an area where, if you find the right home for you and your family, you could do so. As you saw when we were at the very end of the island there, it is open water and beyond from this area. And I will throw a map up on the screen just to show you quickly exactly where we are right at the moment, and that'll give you a very good perspective as to how close you are to being able to be out into the open water. I remember being out here for a social, fun, recreational, work-related endeavor many years ago, going back into the mid-90s. The company I worked for at the time, we had chartered a boat, and we launched from up here in Bokeelia to head over to Cayo Costa for the day. And it was a very cool work outing. When we came back in, grabbed a bite to eat at Captain Conn's, and just seeing what that end of the island looks like here after these hurricanes in recent years, it's just disheartening and sad. Having been in this area for as long as I have, it's remarkable what certain areas endured and how much devastation and destruction can truly take place in a matter of a couple of hours and completely alter the landscape of a given area, indefinitely. Things will always be rebuilt. Businesses and people will always come back. But when you're familiar with an area and you see things that have changed or been altered and are likely never going to be quite what you remember them from years gone by, it's just a sad thing. Mother Nature is Mother Nature, and there is not much that any of us can do about it. I know, depending on where a given person lives, anywhere throughout the country, there are natural disasters and events and instances that we all need to deal with, and just part of the territory. RV park over here to the right, Tropical Waters RV Park. Even got some U-Haul rentals available right out here on the right as well. So I figured I'd take you down, show you the area here with the Tarpon Lodge. Down here as well, you can catch ferries to head over to, let's say, Cayo Costa for a day trip, which is what we had done when I had mentioned that back in the 90s. I don't believe we left from here. I do believe we departed from up at the very end of the island where Captain Conn's used to be. But there are options to take some day trip excursions from this area. So you don't necessarily need to own a boat in order to get out on a boat and visit some of our barrier islands. So here we are at the Tarpon Lodge and Marina. I have personally never eaten here, but I do have family members that many years ago did enjoy a meal here, and the feedback was fantastic. I can't speak with firsthand knowledge on that, but it's what I've heard, and I've heard that obviously from people other than just my family members that had eaten here at one point. So I figured I'd give you a quick glimpse of some services that are available at this marina here. So one of the local boat clubs, the Freedom Boat Club, does have some options for you through that marina right there. And it does look as if the restaurant is still open for business and open to the public. Here on Pine Island, you are going to find that mullet are an essential item to the island. Throughout my 50 plus years of saltwater fishing in the Florida area, West Coast or East Coast, mullet to me have always simply been bait to catch something else. Out here on Pine Island, mullet are more than that. There is an annual mullet festival, and smoked mullet is a menu item at a few limited locations out in this general area. Throughout most of my life, I had never actually personally eaten mullet in any capacity, simply because my experience with them was that they are bait. But we went to the Blue Dog on Matlacha one time, and my brother was with us, and I commented on that restaurant, which is exceptional, by the way, when I did my video on Matlacha. And they have a variety of mullet options on the menu, and my brother had opted for the mullet sampler platter. And thankfully, him being with us allowed me to eat a few different varieties of mullet. While it was better than I would have expected, personally, I am still primarily a fan of utilizing mullet to catch other fish for personal consumption. I generally catch and release. I am not somebody that looks to fish and take home my bag limit and load up my freezer. On occasion, here and there, if I catch the right fish at the right time in the right location, and I can literally intend or plan on cooking that up for dinner that evening, that's what I will do. But I enjoy fishing tremendously as a recreational activity, and the catch and release component within the fishing world, especially with the development of circle hooks and inline hooks and not dealing with treble hooks anymore, just being able to release fish safely and let them go back and enjoy their day is really what it's all about for me. The strategy, the tactics, the analysis, the prep, the looking at wind and temperature and tides and moon phases and all the other little nuances that allow you to be, let's say, more successful versus less successful when it comes to bending your rod with what you're targeting. It's very enjoyable for me. They are tasty creatures, without a doubt. But as far as the mullet side of things, I would certainly eat it again. But if you're a fan of eating fish, but you prefer very mild fish, I would not necessarily personally recommend mullet. But again, as I had said before, it was much better than I would have anticipated before I took my first bite, but still not on my top 5 favorite list by any means. But hey, we live and we learn. Well, hey there, if you are still with me, I am truly hoping you enjoyed the content within this video, and thanks for tuning in. I do appreciate it. If you enjoyed this video and know anyone else that may be considering relocating or moving to the Southwest Florida market, or anywhere in Florida for that matter, please feel free to share this video with them. Subscribe if you would like to see future videos as they become available. I am regularly putting out 1 to 2 videos each week covering all topics and items all throughout the Southwest Florida region. At the time of this recording, I am licensed in mortgage lending, and I have been for just about the last 29 years. I am not licensed in real estate. So even if you do not need mortgage financing for your relocation or your next home purchase here in Florida, I would be more than happy to introduce you to a quality real estate professional, depending on what market you may be looking for your next home in. So if there is ever anything at all that I can do for you, and obviously if you have any questions about mortgage financing, qualifying, if you'd like to chat about the principal first home loan that I specialize in, that is unlike any other mortgage product out there and truly can be life altering and allow you to own your home in years as opposed to decades, please don't hesitate to reach out. Be more than happy to help in any way that I can. This is Matt, the Fish and Finance Guy, signing off. NMLS ID 296861. I will look forward to seeing you in future videos. And if there's anything you'd like me to cover in future videos, feel free to comment down below, and I'd be more than happy to see if I could do a video on whatever your topic or request might be. We'll see you next time.